culture of peace. Something we'd all agree is a good idea, but you may well ask how we could achieve it. These banners are part of an exhibition touring New Zealand. It's been organised by S2E9, Soka Gakkai International. S2E9 is part of the Buddhist faith, and followers believe that each individual can make all the difference in the world. Joycelyn Foo is one of them. She came to New Zealand as a student, and now she combines a career in public law with her spiritual practice, which includes promoting world peace. Joycelyn says S2E9 is part of the Mahayana Buddhist tradition, which goes back to the historical Buddha himself.
S2E9 Buddhism is based really on the Lotus Sutra, which we believe is Gautama Buddha's final and most essential Buddhist teaching. And really the key message of the Lotus Sutra is that all people have the inherent potential to become Buddhas. Everyone has an equal potential regardless of race, gender, sexual orientation, status.
So we all have the Buddha nature in us.
We all have the Buddha nature in us. And Nichiren was a Japanese priest that lived in 13th century Japan. He distilled the theory of the Lotus Sutra in order to make it accessible for people to reveal the Buddha nature.
Right, so he made it readily available to ordinary people.
So he did that by identifying the name for this Buddha nature, or what we regard as the fundamental law that governs all life.
All right.
So he called it Nam-myoho Renge Kyo, which also happened to be the title of the Lotus Sutra. And he established the practice of chanting Nam-myoho Renge Kyo as a way in which ordinary people and all people would be able to manifest their sort of highest life condition of compassion and wisdom. It's not really a process of retreat or zoning out. It's really chanting and being as you are. So the idea is that you're a Buddha just as you are. And it's not about renouncing. It's really about creating value in your daily reality.
Right. So in a way moved a long way from Theravadan Buddhism then, which is ascetic and almost world-renouncing, to a world-embracing form of Buddhism.
Exactly. So I guess it's a form of Mahayana that's very sort of global, outwardly focused, very much a lay organization. I was brought up in Malaysia, in a very multicultural society. My father was really a believer of Confucianism or Chinese Buddhism. You know, my mother became a Nichiren Buddhist when I was 6, but she was very much on her own in the family in terms of her practice for many years. And I think when I was a child, I did not believe in anything spiritual. My belief was that if I worked hard, I could achieve anything that I wanted to achieve. You know, it's that I had the control, I had the ability to sort of determine my future, but with my own effort. Then in my late teens, I hit a wall. And I realized that you can work very hard, but there are some things that seem to be beyond one's reach. What I did notice from a very young age, though, was the transformation in my mother. I saw her change after her own practice. She became really confident and sassy. She transformed into this really confident career woman, funnily enough with a career in marketing,
right,
which is not an easy thing, I guess, if you're really shy and introverted. So, and people used to say to me, gosh, your mother's really cool. And she would try to get us to practice when we were younger, but, we paid her no attention, as you do.
As you would, yes.
As you do. One thing that really stuck out in my mind, though, was that she's always said to me, look, if you chant, no prayer goes unanswered. So if you're ever in need of something, please chant. Because my parents were quite liberal, they brought us up speaking English mainly. I've always felt like a little bit of a foreigner in my own country. And my one ambition growing up was simply to live and study overseas. Well, my father, sat me down one day and basically told me that the reality of the situation was that we were too poor to send you to...
Nice idea, Joycelyn, but too
expensive.
expensive.
Too expensive. I was so gutted, and I felt so betrayed, in fact, by this dream. So I became quite despondent and quite depressed. So the reason why I started chanting, the catalyst for that was really just simply to get over my depression.
Kind of way of working through the grief of
Exactly. And what had happened after that was that, well, I did feel better. I didn't feel hugely different. I didn't suddenly feel enlightened, like an enlightened being. But it took the edge off my despondency. And interestingly, though, about a month or two after I started to chant, another opportunity opened up for me to apply to come to New Zealand to study. Unfortunately, the window of opportunity was very small. Right. I was waitlisted, and I was told that the chances of coming was very slim. And I started to feel like it was a futile expectation until I was speaking to someone who has been practicing for much longer than me, another girl. And she taught me about the principle of causality in Buddhism, which is, your determination or resolve defines your reality, defines your life. And she said to me, look, I know it's a small opportunity, but why don't you go home and why don't you pray or chant? Don't chant or don't pray as if you're beseeching an external sort of force to grant you favors. Right. But rather, she said, just chant that you will definitely make it no matter what. 2 days later, we got rung up by the New Zealand embassy, and they said, well, something interesting has been happening over the last 2 days, which was that, people have been pulling out of the waiting list, and suddenly a seat has become available. So, Joycelyn, would you like to go?
It's a wonderful story. What do you make of it? Do you feel as if you changed things, or that things changed and you accompanied that change? I just wonder how you, or do you seek to make anything of that?
The only thing that changed was, I think, my attitude. What it taught me was that we direct our lives to wherever we wanted to go. So it's quite interesting because for the first 5 years of my practice, perhaps because I grew up skeptical, I've had at least one experience of the same nature for the first 5 years of my practice, like humongous obstacles in the way of a goal. And just chanting with that determination to open a path forward, and it's for me it was just it worked.
Right.
Yeah.
So you came to New Zealand. When did you come to New Zealand?
In 1988.
1988. Was there already an SGI community here?
A very small one. It was in its very early stages. When I first started, I think there would have been about maybe a couple of hundred people. Now it's about, say, 1,500.
1,500? All over the country?
All over the country.
What sort of people? A mixture of people?
everyone, in fact. Some Asians, immigrants,
Yes.
but mainly a lot of New Zealanders, Pacific people,
Yes.
Maori people. So it's very diverse, really.
You studied law when you came here.
Yes, that's right.
What happened then?
Well, law was enormously challenging. The only injunction my father gave me when I got a place to study overseas was that you have to study law or else you'll have to come back.
Oh.
So
It's a big only.
Exactly. And then I decided after I graduated that I'll stay in New Zealand. I loved it. I loved the Buddhist community out here, and I felt really emotionally engaged to the place, I think.
Right. So you got a job.
I was a corporate lawyer
Right.
for quite a while, and I also worked in one of the largest law firms in the country. So I practiced corporate and commercial law primarily in the electricity industry.
Right.
It was very interesting. It was fantastic.
Some people would say that there's a bit of a tension between a commitment to peace and humanity and the hard edge of corporate law.
Yes.
How does that resolve for you?
Well, I enjoyed the engagement with other people, especially when you're negotiating, And what I found was that as a young person in a very sort of hard-edged, male-dominated, competitive, commercial environment, I quite often felt, people were disrespectful. But what I realized was that my Buddhist practice allowed me to really see beyond the surface appearance of things and see the humanity and even in the lives of people who were oppressing me. And it was really great because once I transformed, I think, that anger, my resentment, my experience changed from then onwards. I guess Buddhahood is an expression of deepest humanity. And when you express it within your life, the idea is that you can draw it out of others. And what I've noticed, though, is that the quality of my interactions with others in that environment had changed.
Does SGI inform the decision-making in your life? For instance, when you're changing jobs or other smaller decisions, is SGI a driver?
My practice?
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I don't make any decisions without chanting.
Right.
We have a basic practice of chanting Nam-myoho Renge Kyo every day.
Every day.
And that, it doesn't have a time limit. The idea is that you chant till your heart's content. So that will take about 5 minutes in the morning and in the evening.
What happens when you chant? What's going on there?
Nam is Sanskrit, and it means devotion or fusing our lives with. Chanting Nam-myoho Renge Kyo refers to that determination that we have to dedicate our lives to or to fuse our lives with the truth of the universe, and spiritually and physically. And the idea is that we're actually engaging with the fundamental rhythm of life. So Buddhism talks about how everything we think, do, and say have a huge impact, influences our life. That's how karma is created, this notion of karma. So when we chant, and it's a vocalizing of a mantra, we're actually engaging in a physical action, and we're also engaging our hearts. And I can think about anything when I chant. Usually, if I have a problem, I'll be thinking about the best resolution of that problem. Otherwise, I'll be chanting for the happiness of my friends and my family. Buddhist prayer tends to be very focused on also making a difference for the happiness of others. So while I might be chanting to, overcome some health problems, that's done with the intention that I can have my health in order to work for the happiness of others. We have this coffee chat and chant sessions with the girls on Saturday mornings, but it's just a nice way to get together with friends and chant together, and then we'll have we'll talk about, our lives.
Whatever's important.
Exactly.
Yeah. And it's okay to chant for a while and then chat for a while and then coffee for a bit and then back to chant?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, the practice is very, is very simple. The focus of the practice is really about each person establishing happiness or shining, as
nice
they
word,
are.
yes.
Yeah.
To the outsider, a group chanting is a pretty strange phenomenon.
Of course, it's out of the ordinary. A little bit strange, maybe a little bit wacky. I tell my friends, you probably feel stupid when you chant the first time, and that's completely fine.
Right.
It's just being open to something different. But most people engage with the sound of chanting, with the rhythm and the vibration of chanting. And the sound's quite important. We believe that the sound actually is the medium which connects everybody, and which connects people to the greater self, to your own Buddha nature. The key thing in the practice is that it has to make a difference to your life.
Right.
Everything else is extraneous.
Yeah.
We also recite excerpts from the Lotus Sutra. We'll chant for an hour or so, recite the sutra. Then we'll close the session, bring out the coffee. Have a long, hang out. Well, the kids have been good. Yeah.
If you were wanting to identify the 2 or 3 key teachings then of SGI, what would you say they were?
Well, the first thing would be that Nichiren Buddhists believe that we can transform any suffering, that karma or destiny can be transformed. And that Buddhahood or that innate potential for authentic happiness can be manifested in the here and now.
So happiness is something that is not only a virtue, but is something we strive for and has religious value, and in this life, not just in some future life.
Exactly. For me, I think the roots of our happiness is what is our determination, and Buddhism teaches that causes are what we think, what we do, and what we say. So what is it we are doing to create such a happy life, to transform our lives? So that was what spoke to me. As Nichiren Buddhists, we emphasize the process of inner transformation, or what we call human revolution.
Right.
And it's really the process of actually removing the negative functions of our minds and revealing instead the sort of innate qualities of Buddhahood, like compassion and wisdom.
And there's a sense in which experiencing that transformation on an individual basis affects other people as well.
Exactly.
As long as we uphold the mystic law throughout our lives, we can break through any impasse and surmount any obstacle. We will also be able to lead all those who are suffering into happiness.
The other key thing that Buddhist philosophy teaches is that we're all connected to the universe. Our individual selves is one with the entire universe. So through this concept of the oneness with the universe, when we transform the delusions that we hold in our lives, like, for example, anger, which is the cause of war, or disbelief or disrespect for self, which is, we believe, is the cause for physical and mental illnesses. When we transform all those negative functions of our life into wisdom, compassion, appreciation, then we're able to actually effect change in society as a whole. So for us, Nichiren Buddhists believe that, that issues in society like war and violence could be, the solutions for them really lie in the hearts of people. We get together once a month to chant for world peace.
I guess it needs to be asked whether, in the light of the wars that are all over the world, that feels like a real possibility.
We chant for world peace, but let's also, first of all, confront our daily reality and address those issues which make us unhappy in our daily reality. And as we do that, as we transform the destructive or negative tendencies that give rise to suffering in our lives, that has a real impact, not only on our lives, but on the lives of our family, our community, and the people around us. So that it's all bound up, it's all connected. There's a oneness between self and other, that your happiness is also part of my happiness, that your suffering is also part of my suffering. So there's a sense of that greater self. Yeah.
So in terms of Nichiren Buddhism, when I die, what happens to this self?
What permeates everything is this thing that we call the mystic law, or Nam-myoho Renge Kyo, and it is the essence of life itself. In fact, someone said that the Buddha is life itself. And when we die, that aspect of our lives merge back into the greater life of the universe. I guess you can look at it as the sea, and that our manifestation, our own individual sort of existence are like the waves cresting. And when we die, we merge back into the sea. And what we take with us as well is the imprint of everything that we've done, said, or thought. I guess in a nutshell, Buddhism believes that life is eternal, that it doesn't simply end when we pass on, and that we go through the process of rebirth, sickness, old age, and decline, over and over again. It's just part of the cycle of life.
Tell me, something Westerners sometimes struggle with about Buddhism is whether or not Buddhists believe in God.
Well, it depends on what you mean by God. Yeah. We don't believe in an external creator God, or an external deity. But we certainly do believe in that fundamental law that governs all life, the mystic law, we call it, a compassionate life of the universe. But we're very much in control. So when we pray, we are not beseeching an external deity for help. We determine the course of our own life.
Okay. So the word God is not especially helpful in this context.
No, not in a very sort of monotheistic way.
Yeah. Joycelyn, you've been working for months now in wanting to set up this Culture of Peace exhibition. Tell me why that's so important for you.
The first two presidents of the Soka Gakkai in Japan in the 1930s, they were jailed as thought criminals for their opposition to the Japanese military's attack on China. So they opposed World War II. And the third president, Daisaku Ikeda, who's my Buddhist mentor, has made it his life purpose to spread a global culture of peace. So standing up for peace, standing up for and promoting the idea for the dignity of human life globally has been part of the founding spirit, I guess, of SGI and SGI members. So this exhibition is an extension of that. So we have a lot of artists and performers, who practice Nichiren Buddhism. But essentially, we encourage all members to really be, just true to themselves and express themselves.
What will be your role at the opening of the exhibition?
Well, really, I've organised the events themselves, and I'm really there to play host to Ambassador Anwarul Chowdhury, and he's a UN diplomat. In fact, until June of this year, he was the United Nations Under-Secretary General, and he is someone that we have collaborated with in order to develop the exhibition. He's someone, in fact, that SGI internationally have been working quite closely with to promote the culture of peace, because he's been a culture of peace champion for decades.
Difference is not a threat. It should be perceived as ever-energizing diversity. In today's world, more so, it should be seen as the essence of a new humanity, a new global civilization based on inner oneness and outer diversity.
What it seeks to promote is this idea that the culture of violence, which is so pervasive today, can be changed into a culture of peace by sort of the inner transformation of individuals.
Would you say this is really one of the driving forces of your life now?
Well, exactly. It gives me the opportunity, really, to follow in the same spirit as the founding mentors, Buddhist mentors of SGI. And it's a great privilege to be able to do that.
It has come to me out of my own experience dealing with people. Right. And I believe that unless we change ourselves, nothing will change. And of course, Mahatma Gandhi said in a very strong way that we must be the change that we want to see.
This program was made with funding from New Zealand On Air.